Welcome to video number 3 for preparing a City of Lebanon income tax return. You will view and use this video for calculating taxable income from sources other than employment wages, such as self-employment, rental income, partnership income, farm income, or gambling winnings. In order to efficiently complete this portion of your city return, please have your completed federal tax return available for reference. Before we begin, please keep in mind that if any of the numbers that need to be entered onto this worksheet are negative, you should enter them as a negative. I will address losses later in the video. The first few lines in Worksheet B are to be used for self-employment income. On line 1A, enter your net profit from self-employment, which can be found on line 3 of your Federal Schedule 1, or the net of all amounts on line 31 of Federal Schedule C. For line 1B, enter 100% if you are a Lebanon resident all year. If you are filing this return as a non-resident business owner or partial year resident of Lebanon, please enter on line B the portion of self-employment income that is taxable to Lebanon and include with the filed return an explanation of the calculations used to determine the percentage. Use the amount on line 1A and the percentage on line 1B to calculate the appropriate income taxable to Lebanon. The next section of Worksheet B is to be used if you have rental property. If you are a full year Lebanon resident, please enter on line 2 the net of any amounts that you have on line 21 of the Federal Schedule E's. Please do not use this amount from line 5 of the Schedule 1. Even though it says rental real estate, there may be amounts included in that number that are not taxable to the city. If you are filing this return as a non-resident with rental property inside Lebanon, please enter on line 2 the net of any amounts that you have on line 21 of the Schedule E's for properties located inside the city limits. Next, we will address partnership income or loss. If you are a partner in a partnership, you receive a Schedule K-1 from that partnership, and the income or loss will show up on page 2 of your Federal Schedule E. If you have a Schedule E page 2 and there are P's on line 28 column B, you will have an entry on line 3 of Worksheet B. To calculate your taxable partnership income, you will need to add the amounts in columns G through K for any line within 28 that is a partnership. If you are part of an S corporation, this information will also show up on line 28, but needs to be excluded from your Lebanon return if the S corporation is not located inside the city limits. If the partnership or S corporation file a Lebanon city return, then the income is not included on the personal return. Moving on to line 4 of Worksheet B, ordinary income or loss from Form 4797. This is a rare situation. If you have ordinary income from a 4797, it appears on line 4 of your Federal Schedule 1 and is entered on line 4 of the worksheet. Any other amounts from Form 4797 will show up on your Schedule D as capital gains or losses and are not taxable to the city. Line 5 of Worksheet B accounts for the last few types of other taxable income. If you have income from a farm, it will be reported on either a Schedule F or Form 4835. If you filed a Federal Schedule F, the amount taxable to the city appears on line 34 of the Schedule F and line 6 of your Federal Schedule 1. If you have a Form 4835, the amount taxable to the city appears on line 32 of the Form 4835 and line 40 of your Schedule E. Ordinary income from a trust and/or estate appear on line 5. If you receive ordinary income from a trust or estate, this amount appears on line 37 in Part 3 on the second page of the Federal Schedule E. Line 6 of Worksheet B is where you are allowed to use prior year losses, if applicable. If lines 1 to 5 equal a positive amount, you may be able to use prior year losses. If in any year, 2017 or later, you have reported a loss to the city, you are allowed to use the lesser of two amounts to reduce the current year's net profit. You can either use half of the accrued loss or half of the current year profit. Here is an example. Let's assume that in 2018, Joe had a loss on Worksheet B of $5,000. In 2019, if Joe showed a profit of $7,000, he would be able to deduct a loss of $2,500, half of the prior year loss because it is less than $3,500, half of the current year profit. Now, if Joe showed $3,000 of profit in 2019, he would only be able to deduct $1,500, half of the current year profit, because it is less than $2,500, half of the accrued loss. Again, please feel free to contact the Income Tax Department to discuss your prior year accrued losses and how much of them are available to use. If you use a loss, please enter it as a negative in line 6 and sum lines 1 through 6 on line 7. If you are not using a prior year loss, or the sum of lines 1 through 5 are negative, put the sum of lines 1 through 5 on line 7. If line 7 is negative, enter this amount in the box on line 2 of the front page of the tax return and continue to line 8. If line 7 is positive, do nothing yet, just continue to line 8. To complete lines 8 and 9, you will simply want to check line 8 of your Schedule 1. If there is an amount on this line, there will also be a description of the income. If this description is gambling winnings, enter the amount on line 8 of Worksheet B. Enter any other amounts on line 9. Finally, total lines 7, 8, and 9. If line 7 is negative, enter the sum of lines 8 and 9 on line 10 and carry that amount forward to line 2 on the front page of the tax return. Make sure you have entered the negative amount from line 7 in the box on line 2. If line 7 is positive, enter the sums of lines 7, 8, and 9 on line 10 and enter that amount on line 2 of the front page of the tax return. Once you have transferred the totals from this worksheet, please move on to video number 5 for completing the return. If something in this video did not make sense or address your personal situation, please feel free to call the tax department at 513-933-7205 and we will be happy to answer your questions.